Chapter 3. "Quiet! I hear someone coming," Traylon muttered under his breath. "It's the women! Hide!" The men quickly slid into the darkened spaces of the old dungeon area. Traylon and Keelan pulled open one of the doors to a cell and slipped inside. Mandra grunted and muttered a silent curse as he tried to squeeze into an alcove next to him. Unfortunately, he wasn't the only one in residence in the narrow area. The low hiss of a small hairy rodent and the silky threads of cobwebs drew a shudder from him. He swore he still had flashbacks from waking up with a grombot licking him. Zoran dropped to his knees behind an overturned table while Creon jumped on the edge of it and pulled himself up onto an overhead beam. All of them froze as the voices sounded closer. A low groan almost escaped each of them when their symbiots trotted up the stairs and into the room first. "Don't you dare give us away," Zoran ordered Goldie and the other symbiotes. "I'll take every single one of you back to the hive and exchange you if you do." Loud snorts and the image of him hanging upside down while the women circled him greeted his threat. He grimaced as he thought of which would be worse, for Abby to discover him hiding or for her to find out he threatened to exchange Goldie. He decided to try begging instead. It might work better. "Please, my friends," Zoran said in a soothing voice. "We are going crazy trying to find out what they are up to. You know that all is fair in love and war. The women and Paul have said that many times before." Relief flooded him as his symbiote continued past him with a shake of its head. He swore it moved extra slow in order to draw out his anxiety of being found by Abby. The other symbiotes were just as bad, as each shimmered different colors as they passed by, as if mocking the fact that the big bad warriors were all cowering from their mates. Personally, Zoran had learned a long time ago when to pick his battles. This was one of those times. He'd figure out a way to get even with his symbiote another day. Today, he just wanted to find out what his beautiful but stubborn mate had been up to with Cara. Just the thought of Traylon's hyperactive mate was enough to make him cringe. He had to give his brother credit for keeping up with Cara, not to mention Amber and Jade. Zoran swore those two girls were determined to give his son, Zohar, an inferiority complex before he was 3 with the way they ganged up on him. Zoran focused back on the present as Abby stepped into the room through the door that had been hidden behind a large, ornate wooden carving built into the wall. She was holding a giggling Zohar in her arms. His breath caught as he studied her elegant figure. Her long, dark hair hung over one shoulder, and she was laughing at something one of the other women said. He felt his body react to the sight and sound of her. "Want mate?" his dragon growled. "Want now?" "Not now," Zoran silently groaned back. "Don't you dare call for your mate either. If you do, we'll never find out what is going on." "She beautiful mate," his dragon purred. Zoran was about to reply when he felt a small rock hit his shoulder. Glancing up, he barely made out Creon's dragon perched on the thick beam. The only thing that gave his little brother away was the glow of his eyes as they followed Carmen. She was giggling as Spring and Phoenix gave her kisses on her cheeks every time she tried to talk. He glanced back at Mandra, who nodded at him before he slid back into the darkness. There wasn't anything he could do without giving away his location. He just hoped that Creon maintained enough control on his dragon to remain hidden. "So, you really think the guys aren't going to be upset?" Abby asked as she walked by him. "I mean, Zoran has been very persistent, trying to figure out what we've been up to." "You should have seen Creon," Carmen laughed, nipping at Phoenix's fingers. "He has been watching me like a hawk. I've even caught him hiding in the hallways. I can't wait to see his face when he sees what I've been doing." "You? If Keelan gets any closer, I swear I'd be wearing him as a coat," Trisha giggled. She stopped for a moment to gently lay Balint down inside the stroller that Bio shifted into when Balint yawned and fell sideways as he rode on the symbiote's back. I have to admit, what we've been doing has been fun, but tagging him has been even more enjoyable. TMI, Trisha, Ariel laughed as she laid Jabir next to Balin. Poor Mandra just worries I'm going to bring home another animal. He is still waiting for Asim to return. Poor Asim, Abby chuckled. Have you heard from him? Ariel nodded. Yes, he says he'll be back once he knows for sure Pearl won't shoot his ass for kidnapping her, she said with a grin. I guess Pearl has been a touch uncooperative. From the short time I spent with her, and knowing Riley, I feel sorry for him, Abby chuckled. Still, I think it is wonderful he found his mate after so long. I hope it isn't much longer, Ariel replied with a sigh. Mandra and his dragon aren't near as patient or calm around the critters as Asim. Nothing seems to rile Asim. I think that is why he is so perfect for Pearl. The men watched and listened as the women continued on their way. All of them stiffened when Cara, trailing the others, paused and looked around the room with a frown. Her head tilted to one side before she shook it, pushing aside the feeling of being watched. She was about to call out to Trisha when a voice behind her called her name. Cara, Dulcie said, distracting her. Yeah? She replied, turning as Dulcie and the other men came through the doorway. Everything is done, Dulcie said with a grin. It is one of the most fascinating things the others and I have worked on. I'd love to be able to crawl into your brain for a few days. Cara just giggled and watched as Amber and Jade, riding Simba, charged up the stairs ahead of everyone. Traylon has told me that a few times. I think he wants to see if there is an off switch. Thank you guys for helping out. It would have taken me forever to get everything done. Just make sure that your mates know we only did it because you threatened to take over the workshop, another one of the men called out in a teasing tone. Although that might not be a bad thing. You weren't the one under Traylon's dragon, Dulcie reminded the man as their voices faded as they moved up to the next level. I'm going to kill him, Traylon muttered in a low voice, glaring in the direction Dulcie and the others had walked. Our mates have been down here with the men for months? Keelan asked in outrage behind Traylon as he stepped out of the cell. I didn't smell any of their scents on Ariel, Mandra replied with a shudder as he ran his hands through his hair to remove some of the cobwebs. Goddess, I hope Asim gets Pearl under control soon and comes back to the mountain. I want to know what they have been doing, Creon snapped as he jumped down. I thought you were going to give us away for a moment there, Mandra told Creon with a raised eyebrow. Your eyes were glowing. It was the only thing I could see. I'm surprised that Carmen or her dragon didn't sense you. It took every bit of my control to keep him from pouncing on her, Creon admitted with a crooked grin. She is so damn beautiful, especially when she smiles. I know, Zoran agreed. I felt the same way about Abby. Well, I want to know why Dulcie wants to get inside my mate's head, Traylon growled, turning on his heel and striding toward the massive door. Once I know, then I'll kill him. The mumble of agreement echoed as the men hurried forward. They all wanted to know what was going on. It seemed the more the women tried to hide it, the more they just had to know.